All right, in today's AI-driven world, who you partner with in business, well, it's basically your lifeline. So today, we're going to unpack a really powerful strategy to help you not just survive, but actually thrive. We're talking about the dual-vendor playbook. Let's dive in.
So let's picture it. The year is 2026. The market, it's this crazy mix of human talent and this new thing, agentic AI. And in this world, being agile isn't just some buzzword. It's literally about keeping the lights on. The pressure is seriously on.
So that brings me to a really direct question for you. Is your business, right now, built on a single point of failure? I mean, think about it. If you're leaning on just one key partner for something critical, you might be in for a rude awakening.
And that right there, that leads us to the heart of the problem. That old-school single-vendor model, it's not just outdated, it's become dangerously risky. Let's break down exactly why.
Okay, think about it like this. You see this Jenga tower? Relying on just one vendor is exactly like building this tower and betting everything on one single critical block at the bottom. I mean, what happens if that vendor gets lazy, or suddenly jacks up their prices? Or even worse, what if they just fail? The whole thing, your whole operation, just comes crashing down.
So here's the bottom line. What used to be seen as a simple, stable partnership, well, now it's what we call a legacy risk. It's a model that basically guarantees you'll stagnate, right at the moment you need to be moving faster than everyone else.
But, okay, it's not all doom and gloom. There is a much more resilient, much more modern way to do things. So let's flip this around and talk about the solution, the dual vendor model.
And look, this isn't just about, hiring two companies instead of one. The real term for it is dual-vendor orchestration. And when you do it right, it's not about creating more paperwork or administrative headaches. No way. It becomes the self-optimizing engine for your business, constantly tweaking and tuning everything for better performance, lower costs, and more innovation. And this quote, it just perfectly captures the shift in thinking we're talking about. Dr. Shiva, the founder of GWFM, puts it perfectly. The question isn't if you should have multiple vendors anymore. That debate is over. The real question is, how do you govern them? How do you manage this new setup to get the absolute most out of it?
So how do you govern them effectively? Well, that's where the playbook comes in. And there are really two main plays you can run, the competitive model and the segmentation model.
And you can think of it in really simple terms. Rivals versus partners. They are two totally different approaches, and each one is super powerful if you use it in the right situation. All right, first up, let's talk about the competitive model. This is where both of your vendors are providing the exact same service. Imagine they're like two world-class athletes in a race that never ends. They are constantly, and I mean constantly, competing on price, on quality, on innovation, everything. And the benefits here? Oh, they are so obvious and so powerful. First, you get this constant downward pressure on cost, which keeps your margins healthy. Next, having that challenger vendor in the wings keeps your main partner on their toes. It totally prevents them from getting complacent. Then there's the risk factor. Bam, you instantly have a 40 to 50% backup capacity if anything goes wrong. And the best part, you always hold the trump card, the power to shift more business to whoever is performing better.
Okay, now let's look at the other side of the coin, the segmentation model. In this setup, your vendors aren't rivals at all, they're specialized partners. You give each one a distinct territory to own. Maybe it's based on geography. One handles North America, the other handles Asia. Or maybe it's based on complexity, where one handles standard requests and the other handles the really high-touch, complex stuff.
So we're back to that Jenga tower, but look at it through a completely different lens now. With this model, you're not trying to pull out competing blocks and create instability. Instead, you're building a stronger, more stable tower by giving each vendor a very specific, specialized role. This really fosters deep expertise and makes sure everyone's goals are aligned for the long haul.
Now, for bigger, more complex companies, there's a pro-level move that kind of combines the best of both of these worlds. It's called the advanced hybrid approach.
People often call this the 70-30 split. Here's how it works. You give the bulk of your business, say 70%, to your primary vendor. They give you scale and stability. But you carve out a crucial 30% for a challenger vendor. Their whole job is to push the envelope on innovation and keep that price pressure on. And the key is, that split isn't set in stone. It gets reevaluated all the time, giving that challenger a real shot to earn a bigger piece of the pie if they deliver.
Okay, now we get to the real kicker. Here's why this whole strategy isn't just a nice to have, why it becomes absolutely non-negotiable in the AI age. This is the real game changer.
Think of a dual-vendor strategy as your insurance policy for the era of AI. For starters, it stops you from getting locked into a single AI platform that could be obsolete in a year. That's huge. Second, it lets you do what's called algorithmic benchmarking. Basically, you make your vendors' AIs compete, and this can drive efficiency gains of over, get this, 55%. And finally, it gives you that critical backup, that resilience for when one AI model inevitably starts hallucinating or its data gets messy. And trust me, it will.
All right, so understanding the what and the why is one thing, but actually doing it, that's a whole other ballgame. So let's shift gears and break down the practical steps to actually make this happen in your organization.
The very first, most important step is getting your leadership on board. And to do that, you need a tool that, as the source material puts it, removes emotion from the equation. You have to frame this whole thing not as someone's pet project, but as a totally data-driven risk mitigation engine for the business.
And this is that tool, the performance-driven vendor scorecard. Look, this isn't just another report to file away. This is your command center, your governance system. By using a weighted scoring system across these key categories, you create a completely objective foundation for your decisions. This is how you decide who gets more business next quarter based on cold, hard data, not on who plays the best golf.
Now I want you to just zero in on one number from that scorecard for a second. 15%. Okay, that 15%, that's the weight given to innovation and AI. And listen up, because this is probably the single most important pro tip for succeeding in the next few years. If your vendor isn't using AI to aggressively automate their own work, they're just passing their old inefficient processes right on to you and your bill. You absolutely have to measure this.
And that really brings us to the final crucial question you've got to ask yourself right now. Is your vendor strategy a dynamic engine that's pushing your business forward? Or is it a legacy anchor just weighing you down in an era that doesn't wait for anyone? Really think about that. The choice is yours.